Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Korsha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle story today is from a man who tells us a friend of theirs called them and told them they just purchased a house, and they had asked their local priest to stop by and bless the 4 corners of the house. This is a practice that's been done many years now by Catholics. When they purchase property, they ask a priest to come by and bless it. They bless a lot of things, ask God to bless it, bring good tidings to it, have it be a successful thing. You could even bless a business. So you can ask priests to bless many things. They bless animals, they bless cars, etc. And so this woman, a friend of his, let him know that the priest was coming that day about 3 in the afternoon. And then this person went to morning mass. They say they went to it sounded like a 10 a.m. mass. And when they were at the mass, unrelated and in a different town, the priest, during his homily, told his story about a certain time when he was asked to go in and bless someone's house because they were suspicious that there had been evil spirits in the house. And so the priest, that's another thing that the church does on occasion, bless property where people are suspicious of evil spirits or evil forces, etc. But the reason why they're sharing this story with us is this was a profound coincidence miracle for them, because unrelated, the priest did not know their friend, the friend did not know the priest, and the friend lives something like 80 miles away from where this person who's sharing the story lives. And imagine that morning they got a text or an email that said the person, their friend, 80 miles away, was having a priest come by to bless the 4 corners of the house. And then this man goes to mass, and he hears a priest in a different town, 80 miles away, tells a story about where this priest himself was asked to bless a house as one of the events in his life story. So this clearly, very clearly, is a coincidence miracle somehow, and the person who's sharing the story with us felt they were led to and inspired to share the story with us in case there are people out there who don't know. When you purchase property or you purchase a house or purchase a car or get a new pet animal, it's quite proper and quite acceptable to ask a priest to impart a blessing upon any of those things. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who tells us that they were reading their Bible and they noticed in the book of Mark, chapter 16, it says that if you believe in Jesus, if you believe in him and believe in the story of Jesus, you will be saved. And he explains how his research tells him that if you believe in Jesus and you believe in the story of Jesus, what happens is Jesus becomes your friend and he works with you every day, every hour, over time, and eventually you become someone who's behaving like a good friend of Jesus. So you kind of get saved because you're approaching God in the form of Jesus. You're approaching Jesus, who's the Son of God. And because you're approaching him and being his friend, he's having an effect on you. So it's a very simple statement, really, but the Bible says if you believe and follow Jesus, you will be saved, and that's why it says that. Because if you associate with Jesus, and let's say you play golf with him every day, and you go to lunch with him every day, and you watch television with him every day, you're spending time with him over time, he's going to have some influence on you, and the influence of God is foolproof. Certainly, influence of God, he can do anything he wants. Since you become his friend, in the process, you will be changed, and therefore you will be saved. So not believing in Jesus, not following him, the opposite happens. So you can find this, according to him, in the book of Mark, chapter 16. I think it's worth checking out because it says if you believe in Jesus, he's going to wind up saving you. The other thing he shared with us is also in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It says, any work you do for God, anything you do that is trying to promote God or do God's will as you understand it, is not wasted time. So in that 1 Corinthians chapter 15, you can check it out, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, it says that whatever you do to promote, to try to do God's will, to try to tell other people about him, whatever you're doing to try to expand an awareness of God is not wasted time. There is a blessing associated with that. And when you meet God eventually, God will tell you, thank you for doing the things you did to expand the kingdom. And the reason why this is being shared as a coincidence miracle is because the same person who's sharing this with us said that later that day, after they saw both of these scriptures earlier in the day, 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and Mark chapter 16, they opened a book that they were reading at random, and they opened to a page that said the same thing. So that's why it's a coincidence miracle. You can imagine if this happened to you. In the morning, you wind up reading two scriptures that say certain things, like if you believe in Jesus, he's going to help you and save you, and anything you do to promote and tell people about God is not wasted time. It's going to do some good. And then later that day, you open a book at random and it says the same thing. You might get goosebumps. I know I would get goosebumps. So that's why it's a coincidence miracle. Our next sharing is from someone who tells us they were inside of a movie theater, sitting there waiting for the movie to start, and they got an emergency call to rush back home, and it was a panic, so they took off immediately. They got outside the theater to their car, and they realized when they got to their car, they had lost their credit card sometime between going into the theater and coming out. Somewhere they lost their credit card. And they also lost an important vial of medicine that they carry with them all the time in case of heart attacks. They're supposed to take a pill right away after having a heart attack. So they panic. They're supposed to be rushing home for emergency. They rush back inside the theater thinking somebody's going to pick up my card and pick up my medicine, and I've got to get that. So they went back inside panicking. They got a couple of clerks inside the theater to help them. They went inside while the movie was in progress with flashlights looking all over the floor, and they said like 15 rows around where they were sitting, and they couldn't find it. He's totally depressed now. He's on his way out. He's going to be going back to get home for this emergency, but his mind is boggled because he lost his credit card. Somebody apparently picked it up, and he's vulnerable now to somebody hacking his account. And they got his medicine for heart palpitations or whatever the problem was with heart pain. And so he's on the verge of tears, rushing out to his car for an emergency. And right in the middle, in the center of the exit on the carpet, after he got out of the movie theater and got out to the main outside entrance or exit, and he is in the center of the floor, and right there at his feet, he sees the credit card and the vial of medicine in full view. It's been there for at least a half an hour, and nobody picked it up. And so he sees this clearly as a sign that in his heart, while he was sad and perplexed and confused and worried and was pleading with God for this nightmare to end, that God answered his prayer and put the thing right in front of his path. Unbelievable that nobody, kicked it or accidentally and, it wound up somewhere else, or somebody picked up the card to turn it in. But it was just sitting there for about a half an hour in full view, people walking by it and walking over it. Totally, clearly a sign that God had intervened. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who tells us that they were going to their church on Sabbath for Sabbath worshiping, and on the way there, they passed a truck that had a license plate 777, and when they got to the last intersection stop sign, they were behind a car with a license plate number 555, and we know that those are holy numbers. You've heard that in prior shows. And then what they tell us is on the way home later, they were driving home, and a motorcyclist was behind them trying to pass them, because motorcyclists out in the fresh air want to enjoy riding their motorcycle and don't enjoy following slowpoke drivers. So he pulled over, got inspired, pull over, let the motorcyclist pass him. He got a nice wave from the motorcyclist, so he knew the cyclist was delighted. And he noticed as the cyclist was passing him that the license plate on the motorcycle also happened to be 555. So a clear coincidence miracle. He was trying to do something good, trying to be nice to the cyclist, and he had done his Sabbath worship, and he believes this is a nice blessing from God, because when you try to do good things, you try to do God's will, you always notice blessings. Our next coincidence miracle is something that happened to me. I was going to a business meeting. I was in the parking lot, parked my car, and I'm on my way into the building. And as I'm walking into the building, I see two people in my path who apparently met each other in the parking lot accidentally and were renewing a friendship from the looks of things. And I was inspired to go by them and hand out a card to each of them. I get inspired to do this often. I don't know the people, but when I'm inspired to do it, I always get blessed. And I handed them both a card and continued to walk, and they said, hey, wait a minute. We were just talking about miracles just like this when you approached. It's unbelievable that you would give us a card while we're in the middle of talking about miracles similar to what's on this card. And I was delighted to tell them that this happens to me often, and we lingered for a couple of minutes, and I told them about our book and our website. But it's another case of God blessing. If you do what God tells you, you'll always be blessed, and that's what happened in this case. I was blessed because I was inspired to hand two strangers a card. I did it, and I got an instantaneous blessing and confirmation. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.